Apple has built its legacy on removing things. The floppy drive, the headphone jack, the home button. Gone, and the world moved on. In 2016, Apple turned that same philosophy toward the keyboard. The Touch Bar was not an innovation. It was a disastrous 5-year experiment that proved even Apple cannot replace the fundamental human need for tactile physical feedback. Over 500,000 repairs, a full public reversal, and one question no one at Cupertino saw coming. Why do physical keys refuse to die? Typing on a physical keyboard is a biological process shaped by the way our nervous system interprets touch and movement. Each keystroke sets off a chain of signals. The finger presses down, the key pushes back, a click is registered, and the brain locks in the pattern. This loop, rooted in proprioception and haptic memory, lets experienced typists move at speeds that flat surfaces simply cannot match. Neuroscience and ergonomic studies have mapped the mechanics behind this. When a finger lands on a real key, the brain receives both pressure and spatial feedback, confirming the action. Over time, these sensations become ingrained as motor memory, stored in the brain's sensory motor networks. Skilled typists rely on this internal map, hitting shortcuts or the escape key without looking, guided by thousands of hours of repetition. Remove the tactile anchor, and performance drops. Meta-analyses covering over 3,000 typists show mechanical keyboards deliver a 7% increase in words per minute and a 12% reduction in errors compared to touch surfaces. For those who code, edit, or perform live, the gap grows wider. Muscle memory is not just a convenience. It is the foundation of speed and accuracy. The cognitive difference is measurable. Functional near-infrared spectroscopy reveals that typing on physical keys leads to 15% lower prefrontal cortex activation than glass surfaces. The brain expends less effort, keeping attention on the screen instead of the hands. On touch interfaces, eyes must constantly check position, breaking concentration, and introducing what researchers call visual motor friction. Aeronomic standards reinforce the need for tactile feedback. The ideal key requires 45 to 55 centinewtons of force, travels 1.5 to 2 millimeters, and provides a clear tactile response. Parameters refined over decades of human factors research. Split keyboards and negative tilts help reduce strain, but the constant is always physical feedback. For users with motor impairments or sensory deficits, tactile resistance is essential. Clinical trials show patients with upper extremity disorders maintain a 30% improvement in grip strength after months of using tactile keyboards, a benefit not seen with flat surfaces. Attempts to mimic this feedback with haptic actuators or sound cues fall short. Vibrations and clicks can imitate some sensations, but they do not provide the force gradient information the brain needs for precise placement. Even the best touch-based solutions show a persistent 4% higher error rate. Audio cues alone cannot bridge the gap. Without real mechanical depth, users second-guess every input. For professionals, the difference is practical. Software engineers report median speeds of 93 words per minute and error rates under 2% on mechanical keyboards, compared to 78 words per minute on laptop membranes. Video editors execute shortcuts 30% faster on tactile keypads, with fewer interruptions. Musicians and live performers describe the ability to trigger cues by feel as irreplaceable, a capability touchscreens cannot replicate. Physical keys are not relics. They are performance-critical tools, hardwired into the way humans process input. Any move to replace them with glass or virtual controls faces a mountain of evidence. Speed, accuracy, and comfort all depend on the tactile anchor. October 27, 2016. Apple's keynote stage is stark, almost clinical, as Susan Prescott steps up with the kind of certainty that's become the company's trademark. She introduces what she calls a revolutionary new way to use your Mac, and the phrase flashes overhead in bold. Apple's history is one of subtraction, optical drives, Ethernet ports, headphone jacks, all swept aside in the name of progress. Today, their target is the keyboard itself. Prescott unveils the Touch Bar. Gone is the familiar row of function keys, and with it, the physical escape key. In their place, a glossy OLED strip stretches across the top of the new MacBook Pro, its icons shifting and glowing with each application. Prescott's words are careful. She calls the Touch Bar contextual, surfacing tools as needed and adapting itself to whatever program is open. She demonstrates with a practice swipe, adjusting color in photos, scrubbing a timeline in Final Cut, firing off an email with a tap. The presentation is all fluidity and promise, the hardware receding behind the software's flexibility. But beneath the polish, a more radical shift is underway. The escape key, a fixture since the earliest days of personal computing, is not just moved or minimized, it is erased from the hardware. Apple's technical documents confirm that there is no physical escape key. It has been replaced by the Touch Bar. For developers, editors, and anyone who lives in the command line, this is no small omission. The escape key is muscle memory, a tactile anchor. Now it is a virtual button, indistinguishable from the rest of the shifting controls, its location dependent on software rather than touch. The entire function row, once a reliable strip of physical keys, is replaced by something more at home on a tablet than a professional workstation. Apple's narrative is one of progress, of shedding the unnecessary, of trusting software to shape the experience. The old rules, the old anchors, are gone. For those who depend on certainty and speed, the change is jarring. Coders who exit modes in Vim, editors who trigger shortcuts by feel, power users who navigate by touch, are all now forced to look down, to hunt for controls that move and vanish with each new app. The promise of adaptability comes at the cost of reliability. The escape key's absence is more than a missing button. It is a disruption of years of ingrained workflow. Apple's keynote does not mention the risks. There are no warnings about the learning curve, no statistics about error rates or productivity. The message is pure optimism. The future belongs to the adaptable. The company is betting that professionals will embrace the change, that the allure of a seamless software-driven interface will outweigh the loss of tactile certainty. As the applause fades, a question lingers. Apple's history of removing hardware has always come with a payoff: thinner laptops, longer battery life, new capabilities. With the Touch Bar, the benefit is less obvious. The escape key's removal feels like a sacrifice without a clear gain. And the new glass strip, for all its flash, introduces uncertainty where there was once muscle memory. The Touch Bar arrived with the promise of revolutionizing the way people interacted with their MacBooks, a seamless and adaptive strip meant to anticipate every need. Yet beneath the polished launch, the numbers told another story. By 2019, only 12% of macOS applications supported the Touch Bar at all. Most developers, faced with the challenge of building for a feature that only appeared on select models, chose not to invest. Even Apple's own professional apps, like Logic and Final Cut, offered only token support, leaving the Touch Bar stranded between vision and reality. For everyday users, the disconnect was immediate. The tools they relied on, terminal emulators, professional audio suites, and development environments, remained anchored to keyboard shortcuts and muscle memory. The Touch Bar, instead of streamlining workflows, became an extra step, often ignored or dismissed as a novelty. Its context-aware controls, so impressive in staged demos, rarely match the demands of real work. Most tasks still required the certainty of physical keys, not shifting icons on a strip of glass. Research underscored these frustrations. Eye-tracking studies from 2018 revealed that professionals glanced down at the Touch Bar an average of 62 times per hour during coding or editing sessions. Each glance broke focus, costing nearly a minute of lost productivity every hour. The absence of tactile feedback forced users to look down, disrupting the flow that touch typing depends on. Instead of speeding up tasks, the Touch Bar introduced hesitation, a small pause that, over time, added up. Error rates rose as well. Studies found a 4 to 7% increase in mistakes when using touch surfaces compared to physical keys, and task completion times stretched by several seconds per operation. For those who depended on speed and precision, the Touch Bar was less a shortcut and more a barrier. The gap between Apple's keynote vision and daily experience widened with each software release. The Touch Bar, designed to showcase adaptability, became a symbol of digital minimalism's limits, a feature built for the stage, not for the realities of professional work. Apple's launch of the Touch Bar was not a simple design flourish, but a calculated step in the company's ongoing effort to shape its ecosystem. For years, Apple's philosophy had been about removing the unnecessary ports, buttons, even the headphone jack, pushing toward a minimalist vision that defined its hardware. The Touch Bar was conceived as more than a replacement for function keys. It was Apple's attempt to weave the iPad's touch-based logic into the MacBook Pro without surrendering to the idea of a full touchscreen laptop. Leadership at Apple drew a clear line: the Mac would not become an iPad with a keyboard. Instead, the Touch Bar was introduced as a bridge, an adaptive strip that brought some of the iPad's dynamic interface to the Mac, while keeping the main display untouched. The goal was to offer touch where Apple believed it mattered, without compromising the typing-centric workflow that defined the Mac experience. Users were told they did not need a full touchscreen, just a responsive glass strip that surface controls only when useful. This decision was rooted in Apple's belief in digital minimalism. By replacing the static function row with an OLED panel, Apple aimed to clear away what it saw as outdated clutter. The Touch Bar was engineered to be sleek and modern, powered by a dedicated chip, and integrated seamlessly into the MacBook's unibody frame. Every aspect, from the glass curvature to the illuminated icons, echoed the polish of iOS devices. Yet this move revealed a deeper compromise. The Touch Bar borrowed the iPad's visual cues, swipe gestures, tap targets, but existed in a world where touch was always secondary to typing. For casual users, it offered quick access to emojis and sliders. For professionals, it introduced a layer of abstraction, disrupting the certainty of physical keys. Apple's ecosystem strategy meant the Touch Bar appeared across the entire MacBook Pro lineup, not just entry-level models. The company bet that users would adapt, as they had with the loss of other familiar features. But by refusing to make the Mac fully touch-enabled, Apple left the MacBook Pro suspended between two philosophies: a futuristic vision that, in practice, satisfied neither camp. The absence of a physical escape key didn't just irritate a handful of power users, it broke the flow of entire professions. For coders, especially those working in modal editors like Vim, the escape key isn't optional. It's the nerve center of their workflow. In Vim, every switch between command and insert mode hinges on a single instinctive tap of escape. That tap is performed hundreds, sometimes thousands of times in a single session. Remove it, and the entire rhythm collapses. Data from terminal heat maps shows escape is among the most frequently struck keys in coding environments, rivaling even the spacebar in some workflows. Developers who once relied on muscle memory now found themselves hesitating, glancing down, and missing beats. The Touch Bar's virtual escape wasn't anchored, it shifted, vanished, or lagged just enough to introduce doubt. Each misfire brought a spike of frustration, as a missed mode switch could mean a botched command or accidental code deletion. The impact spread beyond software engineering. Video editors, who depend on the escape key to break out of modal tools or cancel a render, reported similar slowdowns. In live performance, musicians and VJs described the loss as catastrophic. Without a tactile escape, triggering cues by feel became impossible. The result was a cascade of micro delays, a tenth of a second lost here, a second spent searching there. Over a full day, those moments stacked up into real productivity loss. Quantitative studies mapped the fallout. In one survey of professional coders, task completion times rose by an average of 8% after the switch to touch bar models. Error rates spiked, with accidental inputs and missed mode switches becoming routine. Eye-tracking data revealed a sea of darting glances. Users checked the touch bar up to 70 times per hour, each glance breaking concentration and adding to cognitive fatigue. Online, the backlash was immediate and organized. Developer forums filled with threads titled "Bring Back Escape," while GitHub issues and Stack Overflow questions logged thousands of complaints. Some users built custom scripts to remap other keys. Others taped physical markers to the touch bar, desperate for any tactile anchor. Petitions gathered signatures by the tens of thousands. The message was clear: Apple had underestimated just how much the escape key mattered. By late 2018, Apple's internal usability studies confirmed what the community had been shouting. Removing the physical escape key was a workflow disaster for professionals. The company's bet on digital minimalism had collided head-on with the biological realities of touch typing and procedural memory. For a company that prided itself on knowing what users wanted before they did, this was a rare and public miscalculation. The uproar over the touch bar wasn't just noise. It translated into a measurable burden for Apple's support teams. By 2019, the company had processed over 500,000 keyboard-related repairs across the Butterfly-era MacBook Pros, a figure that bundled both mechanical failures and touch bar service calls. Forums and developer boards filled with complaints, but the volume on social media turned the issue into a reputational crisis. Hashtags like #BringBackEscape and #ButterflyKeyboard trended for weeks, with thousands sharing stories of workflow interruptions and costly repairs. Stack Overflow and Reddit saw spikes in threads dissecting touch bar glitches, lost shortcuts, and accidental inputs. For every power user forced to remap keys or tape physical guides to the glass, Apple's brand took another hit. The service burden grew year after year as replacement parts and labor costs piled up. Internally, support tickets flagged the touch bar as a persistent source of frustration among professionals, a signal Apple could not ignore. Late 2019 brought a rare public course correction from Apple's design team. The 16-inch MacBook Pro arrived with a physical escape key restored to its rightful corner, breaking the seamless glass of the touch bar for the first time since 2016. Apple did not frame this as defeat, and instead, the company described the change as a response to the most common user request. Internally, the catalyst was even clearer. A usability study conducted earlier that year flagged the missing escape as a persistent workflow blocker for developers and editors. The data was hard to ignore. Alongside the escape key's return, Apple introduced the Magic Keyboard, abandoning the unreliable butterfly mechanism for a refined scissor switch design. The touch bar itself survived, but its footprint shrank, making room for tactile certainty where it mattered most. This compromise revealed a shift in priorities. After years of insisting that software could replace hardware, Apple acknowledged that some physical anchors are non-negotiable for professionals. October 2021 brought the last word on the touch bar. Apple's new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro models arrived with a full-height physical function row, 12 mechanical keys, each standing tall above the keyboard. The touch bar was gone, not hidden beneath a menu or offered as an option, but erased from the flagship design. In the keynote, Apple's hardware team described the return as a response to the needs of creative professionals, a nod to the tactile certainty that had defined decades of Mac keyboards. The press release called it the best MacBook Pro keyboard ever, making clear that the era of glass controls had ended. Under the hood, macOS Monterey quietly removed the touch bar driver. There would be no more software support, no lingering compatibility. With a single hardware cycle, Apple restored the physical anchors, Escape, F1 through F12, and closed the chapter on its most ambitious keyboard experiment. Today, as generative AI and digital minimalism steer design, the MacBook's touch bar stands as a warning. Human hands need more than glass to work at speed. Tactile feedback is not nostalgia. It is neurobiology, proven essential for professionals who type by touch, not sight. When interface ambition overrules muscle memory, productivity pays the price. The next revolution should remember what this one forgot. Where do you stand, Team Touch or Team Tactile? Let's talk below.